Greetings, welcome to another segment of Recovery TV. Today we're going to talk to you about how to tell if you're in a toxic relationship, so stay with us. Welcome to this segment of Recovery TV. Today I have a special guest with me, Janie Lacey from Life Counseling Solutions in Orlando, Florida, and she is a rock star in my book, and so I'm glad to have you here. Tell us a little bit about this program that you have. It's really interesting.
So in Orlando, Florida, Life Counseling Solutions, we have a program called Women Redeem. It's an intensive group for women that have a history of toxic relationships. And we run the program 3 times a year. It's 12 weeks each program, and it's 2 hours a week, so it's very intensive. So we do a combination of psychoeducation as well as experiential treatment. And it's for women that have a pattern of toxic or dysfunctional relationships, or what we would consider love-addicted relationships, versus just someone that just has a bad relationship.
Right.
So one of the reasons why this is actually a very passionate topic for me, Josh, is because my sister was in a toxic love-addicted relationship which ended in her death. So, you know, not all of them get to those extremes, but obviously we have investigative discovery and television shows, Wives with Knives, that show the toxicity of relationships.
Right. And I'm going to put a link to Janie's website in this below, and any other resources that you have for us. I'll make sure to link that below so anybody watching this can go straight to that resource and see what you're doing. So what are some specific things that women might be looking for to know that they just might be in a toxic relationship themselves?
So when we look at relationships in particular, we focus on women. We're looking at a couple of hallmarks. Are relationships becoming the center of all that you do? Are you assigning too much time and attention above yourself, where you've lacked self-care? And there's more of a pattern where there's obsessive thoughts. There is a lot of focus on the other person. They become the object of what makes you happy. So we like the way that we feel, but it's not necessarily about the other person. It's about how we are reflected in their eyes, if we make it very simple. So the person becomes the object of love, and we may think it's really about the person, but it's really about their reflection of who we are in their eyes, which is why the anhedonia, the addiction to the thrill and the chase in the beginning, is such a high for most people that are into love-addicted relationships. They like that feeling, but it quickly goes away because that's part of the insatiable need and the fantasy of it, because once you really get to know someone, the fantasy is shattered, and when they first disappoint you, then that's where the anxiety and all the other things, and that's where it quickly escalates to being a destructive relationship. So we look at more of the toxic pattern relationship that women can find themselves in, where they'll be monogamously linked to one relationship after another versus just being in a relationship. Or it could be the woman that has had multiple affairs herself and has a history of escaping life and stress with fantasy. So there's a gamut when we look at love addiction with a lot of the women that come through the program in particular.
I remember once from a presentation that you gave that I sat in that you referenced love addicts as being in love with love. And that's a really interesting concept, this idea of being in love with love and not necessarily the person. So can you tell us about that?
So many times, a lot of the women that will fall under that category have had a fantasy life growing up. So they had the ideal, whether it was I was Cinderella and he was coming to rescue me. There was this ideal of falling in love, which is why we have movies and media that feed off of that, because many people like the ideal of falling in love, so to speak. But what tends to happen is there's an insatiable need, because usually there's some type of childhood trauma. So we're looking for something of which we've never had. So if we get what we've never had, we don't know how to take care of it, which is why there's a sabotaging process. So the person, in particular for a woman, the man or the partner who's healthiest for her, she will not be attracted to unless she's done her work, because there's a lot of unresolved trauma. So the ideal of love says that when this occurs, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be fulfilled, and someone is going to love me for who I am, because the deepest fear is that I'm unlovable. And if I really feel unlovable from the unconsciousness, from the consciousness says if you like me and you love me, then there's something must be right with me. So it's a very destructive internal process, and the way that we get out of it, obviously, is we have to come to a sober state of mind and understand why we are doing the things that we do. Because if not, then we're not going to understand what we truly need and why we're making the decisions we make in relationships, in particular relational patterns.
Right. Well, I appreciate you sharing that information with us today. I appreciate you guys watching this, and I hope that the information that was given to you, it'll be helpful and beneficial. Make sure that you follow Janie on Twitter and Instagram and any other links that social media that you have. I'll make sure to put those up on the screen, and so you can go to those platforms and see the work that she's doing, because she's definitely on top of her game when it comes to working with women in toxic relationships and love addiction. So thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely glad to be here, Josh.
Thank you.